All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome to Talk with a TKK Teacher. This is something that we talk about a lot, trying to support people with the mysterious transition from preschool to elementary school that we sometimes get baffled with here in pre-K. And so we're super excited to include some of our wonderful teachers from across the district today. And I'm going to introduce them in turn, but basically, just so people know, these are our guiding questions. Step 4, hold on. There we go. 1 second. I swear, it's like, there we are, the questions. Okay, so basically for our visitors today, we're gonna ask you 5 questions. So like, what is your daily schedule? That's the thing that we, as you guys may or may not know, our preschool programs primarily run as half-day programs. So it's the understanding of the full day program that is kind of important to us, writing good goals and having good IEPs. That match the needs of our kids going into that transition. So that is one thing we'd like to hear about is your daily schedule. The next thing is thinking about the key expectations for your students. Obviously, we're in November, and so those expectations might be different than they are in September. So we'd love to hear about your September, like, wow, I really wish this would be kind of like in our kiddos' wheelhouse in September. And then you can, if we have time, you can talk about the progression of those expectations. What is the hardest thing about that transition to pre-K to your program that you've seen in your experience over time? If there's opportunities for inclusion, we actually have an inclusion teacher here with us, so that's exciting, but also Mari and Lynn, if you could talk about opportunities for inclusion at your schools, I think that would be great for us to learn. And the big question, what is one thing you wished preschool teachers would know about the transition from TK to K, so we can learn and be a good partner in the transition to your programs. Is there any questions moving forward? All right, okay, then I'm going to try to. All right, I'm just going to let Lynn talk for a minute because she's first on the docket today. Lynn, you want to start us off today and tell us where you teach and you know, a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Lynn Glick. I teach kindergarten at Joaquin Miller Elementary School. This is my 7th year teaching kindergarten, and I've been in the district over 30 years. And kindergarten is the grade that I've taught the most. So I've taught everything from 1st through 5th grade, combinations. And I have to say that kindergarten is one of my favorite grades to teach. I love it. I also want to say thank you to the TK and preschool teachers, because you guys have a really hard job. And us kindergarten teachers really appreciate all the work that you do with the kids to get them ready for kindergarten. So going to start off with that. Thank you so much. I think Teresa was also going to share my schedule. Was it able to? Yeah, if you want to, if you can put that up.
Do you want me to put it up?
Yeah, that would be helpful. And then I'll just kind of do a little bit of talking.
Yes, I'm struggling with Zoom and sharing at the moment, but you go.
Oh, okay.
You get started and I'll work on it.
Okay, all right. So our daily schedule starts out at the beginning of the year. We start school at 8:45 and we end at 2:30. So it's not quite as full a day as some other kindergarten classes, but it's pretty close. And so we build in there it is. So we start out every day with morning meeting where we greet everybody. We talk about our morning message. We have a schedule of the day. So I show the kids exactly what's going to happen. On my schedule, I have a picture and words that go with it, but I don't have any times. So That's one thing that I've noticed. The kids we don't teach time in kindergarten, so I don't put the times up. And then you'll see that we have recess happens every day at the same time. At the beginning of the year, I will start the recess process a lot earlier than 10 o'clock, maybe 9:50, and we'll all take a bathroom break together. And then we'll all come back and then go out for our snack recess. So our first recess is a snack recess. And most of the time at the beginning of the year, the kids are spending most of their time eating. It is a semi-social time for them. And then as they eat a little bit faster, they'll progress into doing more playing as well. We have an EL module. The district adopted a new program this year, so we have that worked into our program. And we have foundational skills, which is our phonemic awareness, our phonics, and our decoding, which is sort of separate from our language arts. And then, oh yeah, EL is language arts, thank you. We also we'll do a break during this block as well. So between 10:15 and lunchtime is 11:50. So we'll do another bathroom break at the beginning of the year where we'll all go together, and then we all come back again. And then we'll take another bathroom break at lunch, and then a bathroom break in the afternoon. As the year progresses, we don't do as many bathroom breaks all together. We sort of wean them off of that, and we'll just do the one at the beginning in the morning for snack recess, and then the other one. I also try to do a choice time at the beginning of the year twice a week. So we'll have it on Mondays and Fridays. And they'll do that where they have different things to choose from. I have an art is always a choice. I have puzzles and wooden blocks and lots of Legos. Legos are very popular, and puppets have been pretty popular with the kids. We're also, as you can see, we have computers on our schedule as well. So we will have computers once a week. And once we learn how to open them up and get on with our Clever badge, then we'll incorporate that into choice time as well. I will say that I have maybe less than 5 kids that like to do computer as choice time. And then the other things that are important to know, we have specials at our school. So you'll see we have a music class, we have a computer class, we have a library class. And then our prep time, so each teacher gets a preparation period of 50 minutes a week, and that is science. So because that's not quite the right amount of time, I do include a little bit of science Tuesday afternoons, and I use primarily mystery science, and we love that. So the daily schedule, besides including those formal breaks of going to the bathroom and getting a drink of water, we also have a lot of movement breaks. So we're moving from the rug to the class, to the chairs at our desks, and back and forth. So the expectation is that students, will learn how to get up from their seat, push their chair in, and then walk to their spot on the rug. I do have assigned seating for all of the kids on the rug and at their desk. It just seems to help kids have a home base, and that will change. Sometimes the rug will change as kids get taller. I try to put the taller kids in the back so they can see over the kids that are a little bit shorter, and that might change a little bit. There's a growth spurt that happens around March, and I might need to make some adjustment for that. Are there any questions about the schedule? Is that okay? And then you can stop sharing that slide if you want. Yeah, I don't know if was anything in the chat or. Oh, I forgot. We do have PE that's taught as a special as well. So a special just means that another teacher teaches it, and that's twice a week for 30 minutes. And I go with the kindergarten, I go with the class. The person who teaches it is a credentialed teacher, but I find that there's a lot of learning that happens during that time that's not academic. So they focus on those gross motor skills and a lot of eye-hand coordination and just being able to learn and listen in a different environment. So I like to see how that happens And I also model the participation of being in the PE class, because it's not an option to not participate. You do the best you can. So I model that as well.
That is nice. Are there any questions about the schedule before I click off and we talk about some of these other pieces?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So one of the things that I wish that teachers knew is that it is really academic. Unfortunately, it's kind of the way kindergarten is not the way it was 30 years ago. A lot has changed, but we have certain expectations. So they need to be able to read about 50 or so words by sight. By the end of the year, they need to know all their sounds and letters. They need to know how to blend those sounds together, how to segment words. And then the writing piece is not quite as academic, because that you just need to be able to draw a picture story or write words for a picture story, or even dictate a story to an adult. But we would like it to have a beginning, middle, and an end. We just started writing all about stories. So I model the all about, I think my first one was all about swings. It has a seat, it has a chain. And then I did another one with all about cakes. The cake has frosting, it has sprinkles. So they're very, very basic in there. And I do also start the year with teaching the kids how to draw basic shapes, so that when they're drawing people in their stories, we can either draw them with an oval body or a square body and then a round head, instead of just having the stick figures, so they can add the body shapes to them. Most of our drawings don't have clothes yet, but you can see a pretty discernible shape in there. Let's see. The other thing is the behavior that we need to focus on is just keeping your hands and feet to yourself, being aware of personal space, being able to take turns and wait your turn, being able to share. And then one thing that I really like to work on for the kindergartners is that for them to be able to speak up and advocate for themselves. So if you need something from me as a teacher or something from another student, how do you ask, or how do you get your needs met? Is it raising a hand? Is it saying, excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom, or excuse me, can you help me with this? So we work on that quite a bit in kindergarten. I will say that the math is very less demanding academically. We basically learn to count from 1 to 100 by ones and tens. We learn about breaking apart the numbers from 5 to 10 by using a 5 group. And we use our fingers a lot. So 6 would be a 5 and a 1. 7 is going to be 5 and a 2. And then we introduce the teen numbers with this same concept. So it's like a group of 10 and some more. So 12 would be 10 and 2 more, etc. We do talk about shapes in terms of their attributes. So what makes a square, what makes a rectangle. And then we also add in 3-dimensional shapes like cylinders and spheres and cones and cubes. The thing that I wish that I think the thing that makes it harder for kids, the transition from preschool to kindergarten, for me, I've noticed, is that things happen at a specific time. And so we have a certain amount of time that we teach things, and sometimes we don't finish our work, especially when we're doing our reading by ourselves or we're writing our stories. We don't always finish before we have to move on to something else. Either a special happens at a specific time, or we have to go to recess, or we have to eat lunch. And so being able to stop an activity and know that you can come back to it later, or maybe you come back to it at another day, is an important skill for the kids to have. And it's okay if you don't finish something. At our school, we do have a full inclusion program for kids who are on the spectrum or kids with autism. And at kindergarten, we rotate that through. We have 3 kindergarten classes, and so each kindergarten teacher takes a turn a year, and we decide that in advance. And so what happens when we have kids that come to our school that need that full inclusion program, we have a full-time teacher who's the inclusion teacher, and she supervises instructional assistants who are assigned to the students who need that support. And they come into the classroom and they provide that support, whether it's guiding the students to follow what the teacher's teaching or to pull them out and give them instruction on academics. They also support them during recess time and lunchtime. So depending on how much time the IEP specifies, the regular classroom teacher may have an assistant for 2 hours, but part of that time is going to be spent during recess and lunch. And then they also need their own lunch and break time. So they might not always be in the classroom, but they are providing that full-time support that they need. I also already mentioned that kindergarten can be very academically demanding, both in just focusing attention and then the curriculum. But I just want to leave you with that. My main goal in kindergarten is to foster a positive public school experience and to build the joy of love and learning. And I always get emotional when they leave.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that, Lynn. I so appreciate you. And we were, I hope you hang on for questions as they come through. That would be great. I'm going to let Sonia go next. She is our full inclusion teacher from ICS. And Sonia, since we have a few more people, we're going to try to box the time as much as possible to about 10 minutes, if that's okay.
So how many?
About 10 to 12 minutes.
I need fewer than that. Okay.
Okay, great.
Excellent. All right. Shall I go ahead and share the slide that I have, or yeah? Am I allowed to do that? Let's find out. Ooh, I can do that. Yay. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Sonia Thatcher. I am an inclusion teacher, and I have been focusing on early childhood education for the past 9 years, and I am currently at International Community Schools. So in terms of our schedule, it's very similar to what Ms. Glick said. Academic periods can stretch from 20 to 50 minutes. It's usually a blend of whole class listening, choral response, calling on individual students, and small group activities where some students may be working independently at their desks and an adult is working with a smaller group of kids. We typically do language arts in the morning and math, science, and other curricular activities in the afternoon. In my current classroom, we have free choice about 15 minutes a few times a week. So they are not getting a whole ton of playtime, but they are getting some time a few times a week. We also have enrichment classes, like dance, library, engineering, other classes like that, where, as Ms. Glick said, the students are with a different teacher and expected to follow that teacher's instructions. So those happen a few times a week. In terms of expectations and key skills, it's very important that students be able to share attention and wait to be responded to. So it can be hard when you're transitioning from a class of 12 kids to a class of 22 kids, just developing that understanding of you won't be called on every time you'd like to be. Of course, we try to do things like, whisper into your hand, give a thumbs up, sign of agreement, point to the answer, but students do need to get used to sharing attention with many, many kids. Attending to a speaker during whole class instruction, orienting to the teacher and the materials more than socializing with the child next to you on the rug. It's very helpful for students to enter kindergarten already able, we don't expect them to be writing words yet, but can they hold a writing or art implement with a tripod grasp and not a fist? So art activities can be helpful for that. A lot of the fine motor activities that you guys naturally do in terms of like puzzles and small Legos and such will help build those fine motor skills. But those can really come in handy for students where we are expecting that they're going to hold a writing implement with a tripod grasp. We have many, many children who miss mommy, and that is perfectly fine and perfectly understandable. We do find that it's helpful for preschool teachers to help the children develop perhaps a coping strategy, a routine in advance that helps them to know that that might be a challenge and how they will handle it, hoping that they can separate from their caregiver with minimal tears or know, okay, I take out the picture of mommy and I look at the picture. That can be helpful. I think there was a question about what was, sorry, I'm going to scan back. Here we go. The hardest thing about the transition from PK to our program, again, it's sharing attention with that many kids. Is hard. And then also just managing the length of the day. But there's nothing that preschool teachers can really do for that. So we just deal. But yeah, helping kids understand like you're not always going to be first in line. You're not always going to get called on right when you want it. Sharing that attention can be very helpful. Opportunities for inclusion. International Community Schools has begun an inclusion program. Many schools have inclusion programs, and talk to your instructional coach about possible future changes to inclusion for next year. And one thing, okay, here, the one thing that I would like teachers to know, a heads up for teachers, this is just my own personal ask. IEP goals for cooperative play and especially pretend play are hard to do in inclusion kindergartens and in general education kindergartens because most of the classrooms are very academically driven. There aren't as many opportunities as you might expect to work on that goal. And the idea of free play really is in kindergarten, it's a student-centered, student-directed time. Frankly, it's the only 15 minutes in the day when the kid gets to decide what the kid wants to do. So my feeling is if Sebastian genuinely wants to explore the physical properties of the magnet tiles on his own, I feel bad if I've got an IEP goal that says, nope, he's supposed to be spending time with a peer that he doesn't really like, pretending that it's a castle. So my ask for preschool teachers is just consider other ways to target the core skills that we're looking at, which is really things like perspective taking, cooperation, and sustained social participation. I'm hoping this isn't going to come up, but please no more goals that actually have a tricycle in them, because we don't have a tricycle. And I'm available by email if anybody has any further questions.
Sorry, I really like that. Okay, we can all of us will remember to put in a tricycle goal moving forward.
I'm reading the goal and it's like, give a tricycle, comma. And I'm like, nobody is given a tricycle.
Thanks, Sonia. I appreciate the giggle on a Wednesday. Okay, so I think Ellen was next. Ellen, are you here? I thought I saw her, and then maybe she's not here.
She just texted that she had an emergency.
Oh,
but
okay. That is
Julie's here to represent Mild Mod.
All right. So Julie Slater is a mild moderate teacher at Grass Valley. Thanks for coming, Julie. Do you want me to put up the questions or can you remember?
Well, I was telling Michaela, I am completely and totally unprepared for this. Like it was
okay.
off my radar. So whatever you feel like is best.
Why don't you start with your daily schedule?
Okay. So again, sorry, I have no slides to show you, but the kids come in and lately we've been having breakfast and then we do a morning circle with calendar and a check-in about feelings and just kind of get a barometer for the day. And then we'll jump into math, and math is about 30 to 45 minutes. And during that time, they're generally in small groups between myself and my para. They have recess with the whole school community, well, the K1 school community. They come back in. We have a very short amount of time for a snack. That always throws them for a while is, they want to have a 20-minute coffee break and we don't have 20 minutes. So we have a very quick snack and move on to the chunk of our day, which is our ELA comes during that time. The kids go to lunch with the rest of the K through, just K1 this year. They're in the cafeteria. I get them settled. My para helps me get them settled, but then they're on their own. There are supervisors in there, but nobody specific for my classroom. They're expected to be able to handle themselves and follow a direction from an adult. They go out to recess. Again, they're on their own during that time. And they come back in, and then we have our evenings. It's a long day. I think that the biggest challenge is they don't have, it takes a while to build up the stamina to put in a full day in kindergarten. It takes a long time. And, you know, at the beginning of the year, I do try to do choice every day, not so much. Well, for the main reason is because sometimes kids need to lose their choice time. I'll never take recess away, but if you've been avoiding work and having just refusal issues, if I tell you you have to make that up at choice time, chances are pretty good that you're going to go ahead and do the work that you need to do when it's time to do it. But it's good for them to decompress. So we start off with a pretty large choice time at the beginning of the year, and then it kind of shrinks throughout the course of the year. What else would you like?
So thinking about, so Michaela just put into the chat, Ellen, who couldn't be with us here today, was saying that there's the academic focus on name writing, letters and sounds, and beginning reading. What are some of the things that, like some of the academic goals that you think would be really valuable for kids? Either you could say pre-skills that you wish they had, or was goals that you think, yeah, this is something that is really appropriate for what we're doing.
Two things. First of all, the fine motor work, and it doesn't even have to be about appropriate pencil grasp. We can work on that, but so many kids come in and their upper body strength is zilch, and they can't really hold themselves up in a chair, and they don't know how to manipulate small items. So I feel like any fine motor work that they can do at the pre-K level is going to really help them when they get to kindergarten. It's just going to be one less step that they have to take to be able to mastering writing. I don't mind teaching the letters. I love doing that. That's kind of our focus. I also have first graders. My kids loop. So they'll get exposed to upper grade work as well. Oh, and the other thing, I think, I don't know how to word this, so I'm just going to be blunt. I feel like parents, more than the teachers, need to be aware of the difference between pre-K and then K1. I taught early intervention preschool for years. It was absolutely my favorite job in the world. I loved it. And my kids were there for 4 hours, and I think I had 2 to 3 paras. I can't even remember. And it was great. It gave me a lot of time to really communicate and work on toileting skills and all those things that once they get to kindergarten, and I've got first graders as well, I don't have that kind of time. Like, there's not going to be time to write a note home every day to let you know how your child's doing. You can text me. I'm happy to text you back, but things aren't, it's almost like the parents need a little push more than the kids do. The kids are pretty excited to be here. And because they take the bus, or most of them, transition has never really been an issue. But the parents have a really hard time kind of letting go of the hand holding, which is so important in those early years. Yeah, so I think that's kind of what I think would be really important to bring in.
And I did just want to point out, and I just think it's important because we're now talking about kind of a special day classes, is that you guys are using the curriculum of the general education community, right? In your class, it's just at a different pace. And that's, yeah. So I just wanted to point that out. And then there was something else and I can't remember. Oh, what is the size of your classroom currently?
I have 12 kids and 1 para.
Okay. All right. That is great to know. Does anybody have any questions for Julie? All right. Thank you so much, Julie. Thanks for coming today. I really appreciate it.
Sorry for not being prepared.
Oh, you know what? This works out just fine. No worries.
Jesse's hand.
Oh, Jesse, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, thanks. I guess my question is, or a worry, and the related question is, I teach an inclusion class, and I sometimes have kids that I think need a more restrictive environment for kindergarten, but I get worried that if they start going to mild, moderate, and are in an SDC, that it's hard for kids to move back into inclusion. So I don't really know what the question is, except for that, like, do you have a lot of kids that are able, like, after, how has that worked for you? And
I get where you're going. I
Yeah.
totally get where you're going. Personally, for kindergarten and first grade, I don't believe in mainstreaming. I think it's hard enough for little kids to learn one teacher as opposed to multiple teachers. But we're just talking about a mainstreaming issue, not an inclusion classroom. But a lot of my students, by the time they hit second grade, they're ready to start slowly transitioning into either pushing in a gen ed program or start to do like part-time in a gen ed program. I think that's the ultimate goal, is for kids in a mild moderate to be able to be able to I hate to use this word, but survive, in a gen ed program. So the curriculum that we use is consistent with the rest of the school, except they use EL and I use something different. So that they're ready to go. I haven't had any issues with that, I guess.
So I'm just making sure that I understand. So you've transitioned kids successfully back.
Okay, not in first and kindergarten, but my students who I just am too attached to, I think, I've helped them transition when they were in second or third grade.
Michaela, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michaela. I don't know the pre-K teacher so well, but I'm an elementary special ed instructional coach. So I kind of have like a wide lens. I would say that is a valid worry. And that, just to be honest, like most kids who will start in an SDC don't get out of an SDC. So that concern is real. We have especially like a lot of new special ed teachers every year. So they might not even know like mainstreaming is an option, or like moving to an LRE is like a thing. And so if you're thinking like, oh, it could go either way, I would lean towards the least restrictive environment. Our teachers tend to have more of an eye out for MREs than LREs in elementary, I would say. And so if you think like, oh, it could go either way, I would say aim for LRE and see what happens. Or if you're going to go like the SDC route, be explicit in the notes and maybe even the services about like mainstream per PE and specials, or just like put that in the IEP, because the default for our SDCs in elementary is like not much mainstreaming except for like lunch and recess.
Okay, that's really good to know. Yeah, because I think I've had in general, I've had that worry. And I think if I have a family who I know will advocate for a least restrictive environment, like as they move forward and as they're ready, then I'm more comfortable like having them go to an SDC. But if I feel like the family won't know how to advocate for that themselves, then I get worried that they'll get stuck. I don't know. And it's hard to predict like where kids will end up when they're 4, how they'll be when they're 10, obviously. But anyways, thank you.
I have just one quick comment, Teresa, if you don't mind if I add on just one sentence. Hi, everyone. Thanks. I'm Allie Guilfoyle, Director for School Support Services for Special Education for Elementary Schools. Really appreciate what Julie shared and what Michaela added on, and just wanted to kind of give the framer reminder too that our mild moderate SDC programs are not designed for accelerating students' performance and academic present levels, right? So it's not a place that by design is going to catch kids up and prepare them for general education. It's a place, it's a classroom separate setting where students don't have access to general education peers, where the curriculum does have some modifications and a lot of accommodations and scaffolding. There are combination grade levels, right, of like 2 or 3 grade levels within the classroom. So I just want to, again, kind of reiterate what Michaela was saying, to just be really honest that it's not a model, that's meant to like get kids ready for general education. That teams have to be really intentional about preparing kids and supporting students to be, and we do in many cases, right? But just wanted to add that context. Thank you.
Mari, did you raise your hand?
Yeah. I wanted to also, think about the other programs that are there. For example, my school has a blended education program in both the second and the third to fourth grade. So that means 50% of the time I'm in the general ed, and 50% are in the SDC class. So if you have a student that could possibly do well in the general ed for the core academic classes, but needs, the extra help afterwards, or more socialization or language, then maybe that would be a good program for him. So look around what's out there in the different schools. Talk to your coach, instructional coach, especially when you have a specific child in mind, and think about what's the best option for that kid, because there are some options out there.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Oh, Julie, is there anything you wanted to add before we move on?
No.
I really appreciate you doing this today. Thank you. Thanks so much. And Jesse, I super appreciate your question. I think it's really important conversation that I know that Allie and Bonnie and I have been having, and Allie have been having, about kind of the what we kind of know about the outcomes of kids that are in SDCs, right? And that's a real thing that we have to deal with here in Oakland. It's really important for us to keep having that conversation. So thank you. All right, there is interesting chat going on. So if people are interested, there's like a whole side discussion about sitting on the rug goals, if people want to participate in that. But right now I'm gonna send this to Mari, who runs our K2 moderate to extensive classroom at Emerson. It's also historically been called a verbal behavior classroom. And I'm gonna let her talk about that. And I'm gonna pull up your slides, Mari. So I'm gonna try.
All right, cool. All right, so Mari Reyes, kindergarten for second grade, more extensive, verbal behavioral, children with autism, very long. Anyway, so it's a classroom with 10 students and 2 paraprofessionals. They are my co-teachers. It's amazing, my two ladies. My background, I used to be a paraprofessional for 8 years, 4 in the pre-K class, and then the other 4 in my current classroom before I became the teacher. So I do know a lot about pre-K and pre-K expectations. And so you guys do an awesome job. So in terms of the expectations for you, you're doing great. Don't worry. When they come to us, we'll figure it out. So to me, it's like, I don't have heavy expectations. It's like, it is what it is. We take what we can. And I know you guys have a reduced schedule now. I think before it used to be a little longer, and now it's divided into. So it's like, can't do miracles. So what we get is what we get, and we work with what we have, and we'll do our best, and it's going to be great. So I'm just going to continue kind of like describing my program. It's a little bit different, I guess, from other programs in that I follow an old program, used to be the START model. It basically, now it's called verbal behavior. So basically the focus of this program is language development for the children through academics. So I do, even though the focus is language development, I am also very academic oriented. I have high expectations for my students. I don't think they should be taught less just because they have, severe autism. So, but the focus is language. So typical kid that comes to my classroom is a child that has maybe some words or approximation to words, to kids that have a lot of words, but they don't really know how to communicate, or they lack social skills or play, along with all the traits that a child with autism may have, right? We follow ABA, somehow ABA, as much as we can in small groups. We take a lot of data on all of the skills that we work on, and all of the goals that we work. We initially, when they come to my classroom, I assess them. I do a huge assessment. It's almost like the Sandy. So the Sandy is great if you guys are going to adopt it in the pre-K class. The Sandy just basically or the ABLES, which is the one that I use. Basically, we assess every little skill from 0 years old to 5. And then based on where the needs are, we create their IP goals. So this is what kind of like a little bit how it would look like. This is one student that he came to my classroom. I assess, and these are all different skills. It goes from cooperation and reinforcement all the way to toilet training, to math, to writing. And then the year later, before the IEP, then I do another assessment, and we can see the progress. When I don't see progress, I know that's where I need to do. That's where the work needs to be done. That's where the goals are going to count. And so that's how I inform my IEP goals. Then we create a program, and we take data on that, and we move forward. Everything is, we have a system of binders. Each binder for one student, we have all the goals, and with each goal there is a program, and we take data on the programs. And I'm happy to show that to anyone, anytime. Instruction is in small groups, 1 to 3. 1 to 2 is when I have less than 10 kids. And then we also have whole group sessions. We use a lot of technology. I have a broken whiteboard, but I'm waiting for the new one. But we use an interactive whiteboard. I use a lot of iPads as well. And then another thing that we do, we also have a lot of toys and manipulatives, and they work for that. That's the reinforcer. I use a lot of reinforcement to get them to do the work, and they know exactly what I mean by that. And I ask them before they see it, what do you want to work for? They choose a toy, they bring it, and they're like, okay, let's work for it. Put it aside, do the work, bring it back. And for some kids, it can take the 10 minutes, whatever, 15 minutes that I have to work with him. For some kids, I may have to give the reinforcement every time I introduce a little skill. So that's why it's very, very much targeted to each kid's needs. When there's no COVID, we do a lot of field trips. That's one way of integrating the kids in the community and kind of do mainstreaming. So we normally used to do 3 field trips a month. We would go ice skating. We normally walk to the Temescal Library. We're actually still doing that once a month. And then we would do another field trip, like in San Francisco. We would go to the Philharmonic, or we would go to a museum. Okay, can you pass the page? Thank you. This is my schedule. We have blocks of 30 minutes each. We do, when the kids are coming, as they're coming, because they come at different times, some kids start doing their handwriting work. Then we do morning meeting. It's normally 45 minutes. Then we do bathrooms, snacks, and recess. Then we do the SIPS program for reading. Then we do session 1, session 2. These are our small group sessions, and we work specifically on their IEP goals. And that's where we take data and all of that. Then we do bathroom, recess, and lunch and recess. We come back to session 3, another small group. And then I have 2 groups of math. They use the equals program. And then we do, again, bathrooms, and then it's pretty much time to go. We may do some another little circle where we do music, depending on how fast math goes. We may do some music time, or read a book, or a game. We actually love to do games like Pop Up Pirate, and that is very good for turn taking and encouraging language. So every day is exactly the same. We're a very, very structured classroom. The kids know exactly where to transition. We transition from one thing to another every time, and every time the transition is the same. I don't use chairs, I don't use racks, I use benches. I feel like that avoids a lot of behaviors. So when I say, okay, session is over, clean up, go to the blue bench, they do it. They clean up, they go to the blue bench. When we go to the bathroom, they need to wait at the bench for me to call them to line up to go to the bathroom, and we walk in the bathroom in a line. That to me is very important because if we're going to go on a field trip, they need to be on the line. I need them to be safe. So we practice this almost the first month. And because everybody does the same, we don't have behaviors, pretty much, very little. So like, that's what I mean by very structured. It's always the same. It's always the same language. It's always the same commands. And it's just, everybody does the same and it's great. And if I forget, the kids remind the others, you need to do this. They sound like me, that's awful. So anyway, extras and specials, we do Luna Dance. It's a company that they come and they teach the kids movement exploration. The librarian, apart from me taking the kids to the library, the librarian comes once a week. We also have technology. That's my prep time. And that's pretty much it. Apart from that, they get their, speech and OT time individually. And then whenever I can, I do field trips. Change the page. And so when you asked about expectations, I thought it was about me. My expectations for my students, like what? My expectations are very big or high. And I didn't understand. It was like, oh, what expectations I have from them. Like I said, actually, some of them kind of said wonderful things. I don't have a lot of expectations. It will be great if they know their numbers. It'll be great if they know their letters. But if they don't, I'll teach them, is what it is, right? I mean, I don't expect them to have kids that are behaving and already speaking and I already know all these things, because then they shouldn't be coming to my class. So for me, it's like, I'll take it and I'll deal with it. I think that one thing that is important for them, and that's, I guess, the next slide, is, and somebody said it, like, you're moving kids from like 2.5 hours a day to, 8:45 to 2:45. So, and then they go from maybe 10 minutes a session, individual session, to like all of a sudden it's a half an hour session. So that's going to be hard on them. And so, I just tell the parents it's a huge different bowl, and they're gonna have very, very tired kids. But I mean, there's nothing you can do about it in a way. You have the time that you have, and you're not going to teach them, you're not going to give them half an hour because they can't do it at preschool time. And in my case, they'll just work, it just happens. So I don't know if you have any questions about things that I do in the classroom, or I welcome anyone to come. I don't know.
That's great. Thank you so much. So what I'm noticing is you don't actually have a targeted like choice time or play time.
Oh, no.
You really integrate kind of like a reinforcer for completing the work.
Yeah, they have to work for their time, for their thing. So if I have a kid who has a behavior and I know he loves to play Pop-Up Pirate, so regarding if depending on how the kid is, I may say, okay, you want to work for Pop-Up Pirate? Great. We're going to earn 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, whatever. It can be immediate, it can be at the end of the day. So that's what I do. And also, they know that when we go to sessions, when I say, okay, go to session, it's time for session 2, they all go and pick a toy. We have a lot of toys. They pick a toy and they take it to the table. And so while I'm working, because like I said, it's very individual, while I'm working with one kid, they can play with their toys. Like when it's your toy is put to the side. It's my turn. I said, my turn. Okay, let's do it. Put it to the side, and then we work. And then when he's done, great, you did a fantastic job. Here's your toy. So they have toy time pretty much all through the day, but they know that they have to give it away when it's time to work.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please, we're running out of time. So please put any questions for Mari into the chat. We have Olga here as well. Olga, can you introduce yourself, as she's one of our other moderate to extensive special day class teachers in the district? Olga,
oh yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm just I mean, my computer is not working right, so that's why I'm using my phone. Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, hi, I am Olga Formoso. I am K-2 SDC Mod 2 Extensive at Montclair Elementary School.
Okay.
And it's my second year. And Well, with my students, I have 10 students this year. And most of my kids are non-verbal and autism. And I have one kid that has multiple disability right now. So I could say that this year is challenging, but exciting at the same time because I'm learning a lot from my experience as well. Or every day, I could say.
Right. Could you tell us a little bit about your daily schedule? And Olga, you have TK kids in your program?
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, yeah. So there was a question in the chat about TKs. We don't have any TK standalone teachers here, but a lot of the special day class teachers have TK kids integrated into their programs. But go ahead, Olga, tell us about your instructional day.
Well, the first thing, once all the kids are in the classroom, we start our daily schedule with our breakfast. So we usually have our breakfast and lunch in our classroom. So one of my staff will gonna get their food from the cafeteria, and we're gonna eat together. So after our breakfast, it will be our restroom time. So out of my 10 kids, only 3 of them can use. Oh, actually, my classroom isn't portable, so we don't have our own classroom. So out of my 10 kids, there are only 3 kids that are toilet trained. So one of my staff will go with them to use the restroom. And right after our restroom break, it will be our circle time. So it'll gonna last like 30 to 45 minutes. And right after that, we're gonna have a whole group reading. And that is mostly for the kids as academic goals as part of their IP goals. And some of the kids that are working on their functional goals, we're gonna have their own group with the other stuff. So they will be working more on like imitations, following directions. And for the reading session, we usually go through with a story from the end to Y. And right after our reading session or reading class, then we're gonna have their outside recess. And then right after recess, it's gonna be our lunch break. So same thing. So one of my staff will gonna pick up the lunch for kids and then have lunch together. And after our lunch break, they're gonna have their sensory time. So kids, we're gonna have like at least 30 minutes to do like sensory activity like Play-Doh or any fine motor activities. And right after that, we're gonna have our afternoon sessions. And the afternoon session includes our afternoon circle time activity. And right after our circle time, we're gonna have our centers. So during center activity, we're gonna be divided into groups. So according to their goals. So those who have academic goals, so I'm focusing with in terms of their reading skills, math skills, and then the other groups will be focusing on their functional goals as well. And then right after that, we're gonna have our afternoon recess. And right after our afternoon recess, we're gonna have our snack time. And that's after our snack time will be our dismissal. So those are schedules for our day.
Right. And are there any inclusive opportunities at Montclair at this time?
Yes, we do. So my kids are part of their, we have their PE. So that's every Tuesday. And then they also have their guard as part of their enrichment schedule. That will be one kid or two of my kids will be included to regular class. And then we also have music. And I think that they're gonna start the art activity this week.
Okay, that's great. So this is, I'm sorry, you said this is your second year?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so so you started during the pandemic. God bless you.
Yes,
wondering if you've noticed any challenges with the transition for the kids coming in. And obviously we've all had those transitional issues, but I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if you've noticed anything in particular.
Yeah, so one thing that I've noticed, and also some of my kids struggled in terms of their behavior. So transitioning um, from their daily activities at home to their daily activities at school. So I've experienced a lot of, or some of my kids that has meltdowns in terms of their schedule. So what I did, with the help of the BCBA who supported my class, so she she helped me out establish routines by doing a visual or picture-based schedules. So that was really a big help for my students to be able to adopt their schedules at school.
All right. Okay. So we are just coming up against 4 o'clock. I so appreciate Olga and Sonia and Julie and
Thank
Lynn
you.
and Mari. And I hope I didn't miss anybody. Does that be embarrassing? Thank you so much for coming. I see that Jessica has a final question to send us off with. So, so go ahead, Jessica.
Is that okay?
Of course it is.
So it was just for any inclusion or gen ed teachers. Sonia, you mentioned that like cooperative play goals are hard to address. And I was wondering, how do I say? During like, how realistic is it that during like, for those kids who need social skill support or doing well academically and can function in inclusion, but need social skill support, how realistic is it that they'll get some of that direct support during free play or during like recess time or other times? Not necessarily like you have to do imaginary play with this kid right now, but like, supporting and like encouraging social interaction.
I think it's really key to put that in the IEP in terms of that's part of what the service minutes are doing for that child. But in terms of how realistic, if a child needs it, we will move heaven and earth to make it happen. It can be hard to figure out in advance what the goal might look like, and that depends really on the student need. So yeah, like, you wouldn't necessarily write a goal, I guess, for like my ask is please don't write goals for imaginative play, if that's not what a child wants to do during their student directed free time. But if they need something like stay with a group during recess, or navigate, have 2 positive points of social contact during a 15-minute free toy period, that write that goal and put that in the service minutes in terms of what that child is receiving, I would say. And yeah, of course we'll make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think that was a great question. I also just want to encourage people, right, that we think about the entire IEP team, not just the special education teacher. So if there are social skill goals that need to be addressed, we should be definitely looping in our related service providers, right, and seeing how we can address those needs in other ways as well. All right. Thank you all for staying so late. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all of this. I'm going to send out this recording in case people missed part of it or wants to read it again, but the chat is definitely super fascinating. So definitely scroll through there before you log off. And thank you again for doing this. This is so helpful in improving the transition for our littles to elementary school. So thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Teresa, one thing I want to do is follow up, make sure I can share something. If you want to send it out on our behalf, just some information about some of the work we're doing around advocacy and investment to address the obstacles that there have been historically in elementary school around inclusive opportunities for kids who are in self-contained settings primarily. So about general education seats, and that we're holding gen ed seats at school strategically, and also like augmenting staffing to support inclusive opportunities. So I just want to make sure that we can share that, because I know there's a lot of chat and conversation and concern around that.
Yeah, and I have a weekly newsletter that I send out.
Cool.
So I'm happy to include that information in there, because I think it's really important, because we are moving, I think but there's a lot of great positive things that are happening, and it's just change takes time.
Totally. And yeah, I just want to make sure that the people know that we're, we are trying to address the systemic historical trend of kids kind of getting stuck, right, in like the SDC track, for example. So, and that there are realities, right, that are just at play there as well.
Thank you, Allie. And
Cool.
that's part of the recording now too.
Oh,
put it out there.
Well, there you go, everybody.
All right. Thank you
Thank
all
you
so much. I'm going to turn off the recording.